and today we're going to make a iconic, well, I guess it's the iconic sandwich of Portugal called the Francesinha. Now, I know that many of you probably haven't heard of it. Francesinha translates almost but not quite to little French girl or little Frenchie. And I guess it was the Portuguese way of making their own Croque Madame or Croque Monsieur. But anyway, this is a very hearty sandwich. It's not meant to be eaten with your hands. You can't pick it up. It's a knife and fork kind of thing. And it's all about the sauce. One thing I will say is that I didn't really have Francesinhas too much growing up. In fact, it's more of a mainland Portugal in the city of Porto kind of thing, invented I think back in the 50s. And every restaurant there has it on its menu. And everyone makes the sauce a little different. Now, always one to look for something really tasty, but not something that takes so much time when you have a busy life like I do. I have simplified and finally played with it until I got to the point where I created a Francesinha sauce that's actually really tasty, really easy to make, and with things you probably have at home. And I'll let you know what you need to make or what you need to use to make your sauce in just a second. Okay, as I said, today is Francesinha Day here in Dwayne and Nidia's kitchen. And first we're going to focus on the sauce, and then I will tell you about the sandwich itself and the types of meats and things that I'll put in the sandwich. But first, it's all about making the sauce and putting the sauce simmering. Okay, I'll show you what you need. You need Worcestershire sauce, or as they say in Portuguese, molho inglês, Worcestershire sauce. One beer, uma cerveja, white wine, vinho branco, salt and pepper, sal e pimenta, alho picado ou moído, ou se a gente quiser, a gente usa o alho e tem que se, 2 ou 3 dentes, tem que se tirar e fazer bem, I don't know, chopped. And then this is farinha de maisena, cornstarch, e a gente vai misturar com uma coisinha de leite ao fim para fazer o caldo mais basto. E isto é calda de tomate. Para os temperos, a gente vai usar alho em pó, cebola em pó, piripiri ou pimenta e um pouco de cebola picada, mas sequinha, bem assim, já nunca. Okay, I'll tell you now. In English, you will use onion powder, some hot sauce, whichever brand of your choice. You can also use some crushed red pepper or crushed chili flake, some garlic powder, minced onion. Of course, we have our beer, our wine, Worcestershire sauce, salt, pepper. I'm using minced garlic, and that is cornstarch, which I will mix with a little bit of milk in the end to thicken my sauce. And these are the ingredients. Let's get started with our Francesinha sauce. A gente vai agora começar a fazer o caldo que vai por cima da Francesinha. I forgot to mention before, it's kind of important, but it's up to you. I do like to start this with about a cup of beef broth. Isto é calda de carne, beef broth, just so that it has a little bit of a beefiness. And I'm going to turn the oven on very low and put in about, maybe not a full cup, it depends on how much you're making, but let's just say about a half cup. Metade de copo do caldo, pode ser caldo de galinha, caldo de beef, caldo de carne, carne de vegetais, caldo de vegetais, any kind. Okay, that's on low, and now let's just start adding our ingredients. First, I'm going to add, this is calda de tomate, and I'll add a couple of tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 colheres cheias de calda de tomate. I used a tomato sauce that has some seasoning in it. It has, I think, a little bit of celery, a little bit of garlic, and maybe a little bit of onion. Eu usei caldo de tomate que veio já preparado com uma coisinha de cebola e alho. Then, I put that in there. The next thing I'm going to do is add minced onion. Isto é alho, não, isto é cebola, mas é picada e seca. Chama em inglês minced onion. A gente pode usar a cebola fresca, verdadeira, que a gente corta os bocados pequeninos. Mas depois tem que ralar. If you use real onion, this sauce isn't supposed to be lumpy or chunky. So in the end, you really have to puree it all with a hand blender. And I did say, I like to whip this together sometimes when I get home from work for dinner for us. So easy peasy, here we go, minced onion. And that'll completely dissolve and get very, very soft in the sauce. Black pepper, to your taste. Pimenta preta. Coarse salt, a pinch. A gente põe o sal ao nosso gosto. And then I'm going to put minced garlic, and this is minced so small that you really don't have to worry about it being huge and chunky. Isto é o alho picado que a gente já comprou, já preparado, assim. Mas a gente pode usar o alho fresco que a gente tem que cortar thin, as slices. Não sei como se diz em português. Já está aqui o alho. Eu vou agora misturar um pouco. And now I will add garlic powder. Isto é que é o alho em pó. Para dar mais o gosto do alho, mas não ficar com aquelas... Para dar mais gosto do alho, mas não para pôr muita. Isto é onion powder, como se diz em português. Isto é pó de cebola. Piripiri, com o nosso gosto. A marca que a gente quiser. Ou se não quer usar assim piripiri, a gente pode usar qualquer pimenta seca ou pimenta assim que vem já de caldo. And then, this is Worcestershire sauce. Eles chamam em Portugal, eu penso que é molho em inglês, Worcestershire sauce. Eu vou pôr about a tablespoon. You can see I'm kind of measuring, but not. Okay, let's give this a stir and see how we're doing. Now you can see that the sauce is starting to get a little bit warm, a little steam coming. Aqui aquecer. Now we'll add a little bit more of our ingredients. Next up, white wine. Use any white wine. I prefer a very dry cooking wine. Isto é vinho branco seco, que a gente compra aqui já para cozinhar. Mas a gente pode usar o vinho que quiser, mas eu gosto de usar o vinho branco mais do que usar o vinho tinto. I like white wine instead of red wine when I make this. I tried it on both ways, and I just prefer the white. After putting the wine in, now it's time for the beer. And I'm using whatever the cheapest beer is. I happen to have Bud Light. So I add equal amounts. So if you add about a cup of the white wine, add about a cup of the beer, more or less. You know, there's really no set amount of sauce to make for these sandwiches. It depends on how many sandwiches you really want to make. One thing I have discovered is that I like to make a bigger batch, even if I'm only making 1 or 2 francesinhas, and then I freeze this sauce. And you can make francesinha anytime you like without having to make the sauce ahead of time at that same time that you're ready to eat. So now I have the white wine and I have the beer. Lots and lots of ways to do this. I've seen people use bourbon. I've seen people use red wine. I've seen people use whiskey. Estou a dizer agora em inglês que a gente põe o álcool aqui no caldo, mas eu já vi pessoas usar whisky ou usar brandy ou usar diferentes qualidades de álcool. Mas eu uso quase sempre o vinho branco e a cerveja, que eu gosto muito. And now you can see this is starting to get a little steamy. While this is steaming away, and I didn't mention it in the opener, but it's not Portuguese food if you don't put a little bit of parsley. Unfortunately, I am out of my fresh parsley because I've been cooking a lot this week. So I am going to use what I've got, right? I'm going to put dry parsley and it will do fine. And again, cooking is about making things work for you, using what you have on hand, taking advantage of what's fresh in the season or what you have in your pantry, what you have in your garden. And this is smelling really, really nice. The sauce is looking like now that it's coming to a simmer. Isto agora já está, não está quase a ferver, mas não falta muito. And you can see, I actually thought that the garlic would have done a little bit more dissolving. I will strain this so that this will end up being very smooth without any lumps in it. One thing to put in now as it gets near the end. Agora, já está quase no fim. A gente usa pacote de Goya. Goya, Sazon Goya. Pacote disto. Se a gente não quer usar pacote disto, a gente pode usar outra qualidade de tempero que já vem de mistura de temperos. Este é daquela marca que a gente usa aqui, o Piri Piri. Eu gosto muito disto, mas eu também gosto da Goya. You've seen me cook with Goya lots of times. It's the base for the Mozambique sauces and different sauces. You can put one packet in there. Instead, I use the red hot seasoning, but this is a great alternative. One packet, pacote. Aqui. Mas eu pus o outro tempero que eu já tinha aberto. Okay, this has been simmering for a little bit now, and it's time to strain this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this off for a second. I've gotten a small little pan, little pot. I'm going to put the small one here, and I'm going to use this hand strainer to pour the liquid in here so that what goes in here is nice and thin. Eu vou tirar agora o caldo deste tacho para pôr neste tacho, mas eu vou pôr aqui esta redezinha para apanhar os bocadinhos da cebola e os bocadinhos do alho, para não ficar aqui dentro do caldo. I suppose this does get easier with practice, but yeah, it's hard to keep it from dribbling. All right, here we go, and I think this is the last of it. See? That's all the sauce. And you can actually use a spoon to see the liquid coming out. So you can see that the sauce now is pretty smooth, right? I got rid of most of the lumps and the bumps. You know, a few little teeny pieces might still be in here, but definitely not chunky and smooth. And now I'll just simmer this back. So here is my strained simmering sauce. And now I have my cornstarch, isto é farinha de maizena. And I'm going to add a little bit of milk. Uma coisinha de leite. Just reminding folks to make sure that you need to stir this up. You don't want that cornstarch to be like a big lumpy brick down the bottom. What I do like to do sometimes is actually add a little of the heated element to help break it down. And then mix it all up so it's nice and smooth before you put it back in. And now I will add a little bit, just a little at a time to make it a little thicker. Não só uma coisinha de cada vez para ficar mais bastinho. A gente não quer pôr muito de uma vez. And it's starting to change the color a little bit so it has that lighter instead of such a deep red. And of course this smells fantastic. Isto está a cheirar bem. Eu gosto mais pouco para ficar mais pouco bastinho. Yeah, it's getting a little thicker, and then I'm going to just finish it off. There we go. There's the Francesinha sauce, and it's pretty much ready to go. You can make this ahead of time and then just reheat it right before you assemble your sandwiches, which is what I'm going to show you next. O caldinho que vai por cima da francesinha já está pronto e a gente faz isto adiante e depois tem que se aquecer outra vez antes de pôr por cima da sandes, quando a sandes já está a ficar feita. A gente vai ficar a pôr a sandes num pratinho e eu vou mostrar como se faz a sandes. I'm going to use the basic ingredients and I'll show you how we put the sandwich together in a minute. This is what you'll need to create the Francesinha sandwich, and I'll start assembling that sandwich in a minute. But first I want to tell you what you're going to need. First, white sliced bread. This one is thick. Este é pão da moda cortada já assim, mas é grosso, não é fatias fininhas, são grossas. They call it in America Texas toast, but it is definitely probably twice the thickness of normal sliced white bread. You're going to need linguiça or chouriço. ham, fiambre, como se diz em português, and some sliced cheese. Now this is sliced Munster. You can use Munster or Edam, or you can use, I guess you can use any kind of cheese, but I think a cheese that has some firmness to it, so when it starts to melt, it doesn't fall apart like a mozzarella would. Something like maybe a provolone, a Munster, something like a little hardier, one of the more nuttier breads. 2 eggs, and that is sirloin steak cut thinly that I marinated overnight. Isto é bife que depois junto à noite à vindade, já está aqui pronto para ir à frigideira. Isto é os bifes que a gente vai usar na Santos. You will be watching me put this sandwich together, but the first thing you have to do is actually cook that meat and cook that linguica before you start assembling your sandwiches and going into the last phase where you actually cover it with cheese, throw it in the oven, melt it all, and you'll see that in a minute. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil on the bottom, bring it up, a little bit of olive oil. Uma coisinha de azeite, eu vou pôr o azeite aqui dentro da frigideira. How do you say skillet in Portuguese? I don't know. Na frigideira, right? I don't know. I grew up in New Bedford, and frigideira turned out to be how some Portuguese people who didn't speak English very well called the refrigerator after the name brand Frigidaire. So your mileage may vary, but I'm just going to cook the steaks in here. And you know what? You see, it smells garlicky. You can smell the wine and the garlic in here. And these sirloins are cut so thin that it's very hard not to overdo it. I like to leave a little pink in it. You can see there's a lot of red. And I like to move it around. I like the little fatty. This is sirloin, but it's very thinly sliced sirloin. That's, as I said, been marinated. That's why it has some darker edge coloring from the marinade. You can see these steaks are almost done. One thing, these beefs are all done. And I'm going to pull these, oh man, making a mess out of my stove today. It will require a scouring when I'm done. Eu gosto do bife assim, pouco mal passado. Eu não gosto da carne, nem peixe, nem nada para ficar muito cozido até ficar seco. Eu gosto pouco mal passado assim, mas também tem que estar cozidinho, não é para estar tão vermelho no meio. Não fica bem na Santos. Alright, I'm going to take these out, put them on my plate. That's what the beef looks like now that it's all cooked up. I might have to maybe cut pieces of it, so linguica in a different pan because I'm going to throw out. And these, I just cut up enough for 2 sandwiches for one for each of us. There we go. So you want to just cook up the linguica, sort of grilling it both sides. I'll flip it in a minute and the linguica will be ready. Okay, I did trim a little bit. Now I'm going to put the cheese on the outside of the bread. I think it's going to use about 5 slices, talvez 5 slices, assim, I'm going to say 5 fatias de queijo, assim por fora, faz como a casa assim, para isto tudo ir a derreter ao forno. So I've covered it in cheese like this, and now it goes in the oven. While it's cooking, I'm going to fry an egg and heat up the sauce again. Agora eu vou pôr isto ao forno, para isto tudo derreter e ficar quentinho. E enquanto isto está no forno, eu vou estrelar um ovo e também vou aquecer o caldo que vai por cima. I'm just going to keep an eye on it until everything gets melty. I'm going to fry an egg. Aqui outra vez. E pus uma coisinha de manteiga aqui para eu cozer ou estrelar o ovo. I just put a little bit of butter down, heating it up here in the skillet, and I have 1 egg. I'm going to use this egg to top off the sandwich once the cheese is all melted, and then here is my sauce, and I'm going to be heating the sauce right now to get it all piping hot and up to temperature. adding my egg. Here's the egg. I really don't need anything fancy on the egg. Maybe just a spray of salt. Eu não ponho muito por cima do ovo, que não precisa para ter o caldo, mas talvez uma coisinha de sal. A little salt. As soon as that egg is ready, and that's ready, I'll show you the finishing touches. Heating up the Francesinha sauce, and it's already getting hot, see? Ooh, that smells good. Tá aqui o caldinho que estou a aquecer enquanto a Sandra está no forno. That's looking good. Tá quase. Pouco mais para ficar dourado, pouco dourado por cima. But looks good. There it is, all toasty and ready for the sauce. Tá quase. Here is my sauce. Tá aqui o caldo da Francesinha. Já vou apagar. E tá aqui o ovo. O ovo vai assim. Now the best part is when we take this sauce and we ladle the sauce right over the sandwich. A gente põe o caldo assim por cima. Maybe a little more sandwich. And I'm going to add a little more sauce because there's never too much. Francesinha. Usually these are served with French fries or potatoes all around it. I'm not going to bother with the French fries. Obviously that's a big sandwich. And I'll cut it open and show you what it looks like. And here it is, Francesinha. A gente tem que comer com garfo e uma faca assim. Pode ver por dentro. Eu vou mostrar. Linguiça, beef, ovo e o queijo assim por cima. Uma delícia. Everyone for watching. I want to thank you all for watching these videos, supporting this channel. Muito obrigado por ver os vídeos e por estar aqui no nosso canal no YouTube. E agora vou acabar de comer esta sandes. I want to finish eating this Francesinha. Look at it over here. It's just screaming my name. Please hit the like button and see you again.